Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the 7 core concepts to the art of productivity. Productivity is an art, and I've learned about this art in the last 8 years by balancing a fitness routine, being a youth pastor, reading plenty of productivity books, and then also doing this while continuing to work on my advanced education. And I've also met some highly productive people in these different circles, and these are the concepts that they use. The first concept is to work on your life, not just in your life. You might have heard something similar to this when it comes to business, as to work on the business, not just working in the business. Doing daily tasks is basically working in the business, but then the opposite is to build systems for the future and to strategize about what you need to do to move something forward, okay? Working in the business is just working day to day, getting the basic needed tasks done, but then working on the business is building systems, producing more strategy. And the art of productivity functions the same way, except in your personal life. So you can automate things in your life just like what people do for business. And these are known as habits. Habits are to your life like systems are to a business. They let you function mindlessly in some areas, and you can use your creative ability to move something forward, and the daily things are just getting done because they're on a system. So the person who wants to get a really consistent system in their life, if they apply a morning routine where they wake up, get in the Bible, and then they go to the gym, and then they read a little bit, and then they write all before work, well, that is just putting a system of productivity in your personal life. So now you're working on your life, not just going day to day. To just work in your life would be like getting up after hitting snooze and then rushing to work, sound familiar, or rushing to class, and then always being too busy and stressed about life. That's working just in your life, but you want to be working on your life, doing habits, moving the needle forward in the different areas. The second concept of the art of productivity is using the scientific method to improve. And the scientific method, you may be like, oh, I didn't really learn that in school. Well, it's simply observing, questioning, testing, and there's a few other words, but in a simple way, instead of just doing what you've always done in your day-to-day life, take a few minutes, observe what you're doing each week, question if you could do your health better, or if you could manage your finances better, and if so, how? If you don't know how, then just go to YouTube. That's like my answer for a lot of things, because YouTube teaches you most of the things that you could want to know. But then you get an idea and you try it, and if it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, then don't keep it. That is simply what using the scientific method in your life will do. And if you do this for years, then you will, whatever area of life that you apply the scientific method to, you test, and then if it works, you improve and you keep doing it. If you use that in your health, you're gonna run circles around other people. If you use that in your studying, that's pretty much the big secret to what's helped me be productive and be efficient with studying, is just using the scientific method, trying new things. If it works, keep it instead of doing the same old thing over and over again. And then pro tip, write down what you have done and write down what you're gonna do in the future. That way, after a few years go by, man, it's so cool. I get to look back on 4 or 5 years ago when I was applying different techniques, and I could see, man, I have grown so much since then, and it's by using the scientific method. So if you're gonna have the art of productivity in your life, you're gonna understand it, you're gonna be someone who uses a scientific method to be more productive. The third concept is managing your time towards the most important work. Time management is important, but time needs to be managed so that you can do more important things. And the Bible says that our days are numbered. Ephesians 5:16 says that we should make the most of our time because the days are evil. You don't know how long you're gonna live here on this earth, so because your days are numbered, you should focus on the most important things. Your spiritual life, very important. Whether people know Christ as their Savior, we should be sharing the gospel because our days are numbered. And then the people you share the gospel with, you don't know how many days they have left, so we should be constantly sharing the gospel with other people. We should be stewarding our time well, and to steward your time well means to work on the important things, not just doom scrolling, not just mindlessly answering emails that aren't important. You do have to answer emails, but batch those tasks towards the later part of the day instead of using your morning hours if you're not a secretary. There are some jobs that do require you to do that, but define what is the important work in your job and in your family, and use your time towards that first, then do the less important things later in the day. So managing your time, it's not easy. And a lot of people, they choose not to do it because it's hard. But if you choose to manage your time towards these high impact priorities, then you are modeling the art of productivity. The art of being productive is managing your time towards doing the important tasks. The fourth concept is thinking long term. And someone who thinks long term, they work on the different areas of their life because they know if they don't, the natural progression in life is for things to get worse. Someone who thinks long term will spend time either daily or weekly learning, because when you learn, you're able to improve things. Someone who values the long term or thinks long term also focus on their health, their relationships, developing skills, because even if you don't develop a skill in one day, you're putting time towards that, whatever skill it is. Then down the road, you're gonna be able to have that skill. So thinking long term is incredibly important. And the people who think long term, they do this because they're, like I said earlier, they're preparing for the future. And when you just think in the short term, you might do something like binge play video games every day after work and not spend any time reading. Well, it's fun in the moment, but it's a short-term solution. There's a bit of fun that you're gonna have that day, but then over the long term, you might find yourself financially not stable, and all you want to do is play video games because you're focusing on the short term. But people who think long term, then they think through what is the return on the investment of the task that I'm doing. So video games, they can be a great leisure activity, but it can also pretty much take over your life outside of work, and you look up one day and it's pretty tragic. But when you think long term, you're gonna align your days and your weeks and your months towards where you want to go long term. So part of the art of productivity is thinking long term. The fifth concept is finishing what you start. It's easy to find people who start projects, but it's a little different to find people who finish them. And the art of being productive involves finishing projects. And finishing projects or tasks, especially long-term projects, means that you know not only how to start something, how to have a good idea and start it when it's fun, but then how to continue with that idea when it's not as fun anymore. And I know a couple of people that, man, having a new idea is like a daily thing for them, but they can't stick with one thing worth any, I mean, they just can't stick with stuff, because when it's not as fun anymore, do you still show up? Do you still execute? And the thing is, if you're gonna be someone who understands the art of learning, then you know that not every day is a great day. Now, every day can be, you can look at the optimistic parts, but you're not gonna feel good every day when it comes to learning. And part of finishing is understanding, you know what, if I'm gonna finish this project, there's gonna be days where I'm gonna have to work that I didn't really feel like working on the project. And then also, if you involve planning, that is another thing that will really help you finish tasks. Because sometimes people, they say they have this great idea and then they start it, but they didn't plan what they're gonna do, and they didn't think through what are the roadblocks that I'm gonna come into, how am I gonna navigate those roadblocks. And so planning is another thing that can help you finish tasks. But if you show me a person who sticks with their word and finishes the things that they start, I'll show you a person who understands the art of productivity. Proactive thinking instead of reactive thinking. You say, what are those? Well, reactive thinking is when a person, they just respond to situations, and then proactive thinking is when they get ahead of those coming situations. For example, if you want a different job and your solution is because you don't like your job today, you complain, and then you just make the same decisions you've always made, and your solution is to complain. Well, you're just reacting to what's happening to you. But if you want a different job because the job doesn't fit you or whatever, and you talk to someone who has another job that you think you may want, and you ask them what the qualifications are, and then you go get the qualifications, you do the necessary training, that's being proactive. You're happening to life instead of life just happening to you all the time. And proactive people, they have a tendency to, instead of putting things off, because that's reactive, you have a situation come to you, you just put it off. A proactive person will say, I do want to learn that. And then they'll put a little bit of time every single day towards that thing that they want to learn, even if they don't have an end date in mind, because they're being proactive. And those are the people that understand the art of learning, the people who think proactively instead of always reactively either thinking or addressing the situations that happen to you. The seventh concept is growing instead of staying the same. Now, the art of productivity is centered on the concept of constant growth. But if you're gonna grow, then you have to be willing to change, and change is not always comfortable. And so a lot of people, they don't grow, maybe because they don't wanna change. But the opposite is a person who They change and they accomplish new goals, and they're not afraid of putting in the work to achieve those new goals, and they are productive as a result. And the other thing is, productive people, they don't just continue doing things that don't work. They're not satisfied with just the same old result. They change themselves so that they change the result that they're getting. And if you're gonna be a productive person, one of the really cool things about productivity and the art of productivity is that it's an ongoing process. It's like, who's achieved productivity? Well, you never really achieve, but that's the fun, is chasing the art of productivity. Well, there you have it. These are the core concepts. Work on these continuously, and you'll be floored by the results that you'll produce in your life over time. And if you want to know more about goal setting and conquering and achieving, I did a video on the goals, and you can watch that if you're interested. But until next time, work on the art of productivity. We'll see you guys in the next one.